Once upon a time, in a kingdom made of candy, there lived an arrogant princess who had two kids, a son and a daughter. The princess was so vain that she only allowed people with beautiful appearances to enter her castle. Because of this, the king had to sneak in through a window every night to see his own children. One day the princess told her son, "You are going to marry the most beautiful girl in the kingdom, and if you don't bring me a bride with skin as white as snow, hair as black as night and lips as red as blood, I will throw you out of the castle." The princess's son was so shocked by his mother's words that he fell off his chair. But he didn't want to be thrown out of the castle, so he set off to find a wife. He went to the village, but when he saw the girls there, he realized that none of them were beautiful enough for him. So he continued his search and came across a clearing in the forest where an old woman was gathering firewood. The princess's son went up to her and said, "Will you marry me?" The old woman looked at the princess's son and replied, "You look like my kind of man, but I am too old to marry you." Then the woman took off her heavy sack and threw it over her shoulder. "But I can let my daughter marry you. She is as white as snow, as black as night, and as red as blood." The princess's son liked the sound of that and said, "That sounds wonderful. I'll marry your daughter then." When the old woman heard this, she became very happy and went to get her daughter. The girl was indeed as white as snow, as black as night, and as red as blood. She had pale white skin, long flowing black hair, and wore red lipstick. The princess's son was overjoyed and immediately took her to his mother. When the princess saw her future daughter-in-law, she was very pleased and said, "She is just what I wanted. Now let us go to the castle. You will live here from now on." Then the princess turned to her son and asked, "What are you waiting for? Go and get your sister ready. She will marry your friend." The princess's son couldn't believe his ears. He had gone to find a wife for himself, not for his sister, but how could he argue with his mother? So he went to find his sister and told her about the marriage proposal. The princess's daughter was furious. "I don't want to marry his friend. I want to become an apprentice of the great wizard. I want to learn magic and become powerful." The princess's son replied, "You can't do that. Mother would never allow it. She only wants you to become a beautiful queen." Then the princess's daughter said something that made her brother gasp. "I will show mother how beautiful I can become. I'll marry the ugliest groom she can find." The princess's son couldn't believe what his sister had said. "Don't you think I know how ugly mother's suitors are? They're horrible. You can't marry one of them." The princess's daughter just smiled mysteriously and said, "You'll see everything tomorrow. Just wait and watch." The next day, the princess dressed her daughter in her finest gown and took her along to meet the most disgusting men in the kingdom. There was a short, fat man with a big mustache, a tall, thin man with no hair, and a bald man with bushy eyebrows. All three of them were terrible to look at, but the princess's daughter didn't even flinch when she saw them. Instead, she smiled politely and said hello to each of them. After saying goodbye to her mother, the princess's daughter went to the market. There she met a handsome young man who was selling flowers. "How much do you charge for these flowers?" she asked the young man. "Only one kiss," he replied. The princess's daughter agreed without hesitation. When she leaned in to kiss the young man, he grabbed her by the waist and whispered in her ear, "You have beautiful lips. A wizard once told me that a girl who gives me a kiss has to marry me after sunset." The princess's daughter didn't know what to do. She had never kissed anyone before, let alone been kissed by someone who had such stinky breath. But since she had promised the groom, she couldn't back out now. When the sun began to set, she went to the young man and said, "It's getting late. Should we get married now?" The young man couldn't believe his luck. He had never thought that he, a simple flower seller, would marry a real princess. He immediately took her to the town square where the mayor married them right there and then. After the wedding, the princess's daughter went back to the castle with the young man. She had never felt so disgusted in her life. Every time she tried to get away from the young man, he hugged and kissed her. Finally, when they arrived at the castle, the young man went to freshen up in the bathroom. The princess's daughter took this opportunity to escape to her room. When her mother asked her why she was back so soon, the princess's daughter replied, "I am so tired, mother. Let me rest for a bit." Then she told her mother all about the kiss and how the young man wanted to marry her. The princess listened patiently, and when her daughter was done, she said, "Well, you did say you wanted to marry the ugliest groom in the kingdom." The princess's daughter couldn't believe her mother wasn't angry. She had hoped her mother would take care of everything, but it seemed like she'd have to deal with the consequences of her actions.